called The Magic of Thinking Big. How to Win Friends and Influence People was the most powerful book in my entire life.
Amen.
Because what we do here with building relationships, no matter what kind of a heart you have, no matter how hard of a worker you are, no matter what kind of an expert you are at what you do, if you can't connect with your potential clients or customers, then it doesn't matter. Because somebody else who has the same skills that you do as an expert, but they're better at communicating, are going to eat you for lunch. And they're going to get your business. That's how powerful what I'm trying to tell you is. And what's going on the internet, Sri's right. I mean, you got to pick up the phone. You got to build those bridges and relationships. Be a student. Read a book 15 to 30 minutes a day. We are going to launch the Book of the Month Club. We are so close to doing this. I was a part of the Book of the Month Club for nearly 28 years. And that's why I read so many books. Because I was constantly having books thrown at me, and I was reading that, and then other people were telling me some other books, and I was starting, oh, I gotta learn about this, and I want to read that, and oh my, you're excited about this. And anyways, what happened was I learned a lot of stuff through reading those books. And there's a saying, leaders are readers and readers are leaders. And there's also a saying, if you're not the lead dog, the view is always the same. Did you get it? And I don't like to look at anybody's tail end, so there we go. So a lot of you don't necessarily need to be a leader in the industry you're in, but you do need to make sure that you have the right information to share. And the next one is, and we used to have a saying, this is where the young folks are going to go, what is a tape? But back in the day, I mean, I got involved in cassette tapes when they first came out. I mean, I had to buy a cassette tape player so that I could give the tape to someone so they could listen to it. I give them a cassette player and a tape. I mean, that's how long ago it was. But we had a saying, a tape a day keeps poverty away. And the reason was because we were being educated and motivated all the time. And so in Successful Thinkers, what we're going to do is we're going to be interviewing successful thinkers, not outside. Everything that we're doing with Successful Thinkers is going to be inside the family. Because there are experts in Successful Thinkers in every career. I don't care what you do for a living, I guarantee you we can find an expert that can teach you, help you, or sell you something. Does that make sense? But we also have experts, or we have people in Successful Thinkers that they've gone through the fight, the battle, and they've been in the highs and they've had the lows and they've been back in the highs. And so the goal with Successful Thinkers is to do YouTube interviews and convert them to MP3s so that you can either download them or watch them on camera, on video, on the internet, and learn about other people's struggles, like the Book of the Month. When some of the books are going to be autobiographies and some are going to be self-improvement books. But even an autobiography is a self-improvement book because you're reading about somebody's struggle. Because the problem is we're always looking at everybody else and we're saying, well, it was easy for them, but they didn't have to deal with my stuff. And the truth of the matter is a lot of the books that I've read and a lot of the stories that I've heard make my stuff look really weak. It basically gives me that feeling of what's my excuse. Does that make sense? And so my goal is to launch the I don't know if we're going to call it the YouTube of the week or the YouTube of the month or whatever, but I've already got 50 plus stories that I've already done interviews on that have really, some of them are really impactful. They're very emotional. But I know this for a fact. When you think about, you focus on your own problems, it's hard to get, it's like you can't see the forest through the trees because you're so close to your problems. Does that make sense? But the moment you step back and you begin to look at the forest from above, you can see where your destination is. Well, the same thing holds true when you're hearing stories about other people that have struggled, failed, struggled, and then made it. They give us hope. And, the last thing I want to do at 54 years old is be, starting over. But the truth of the matter is, it is, right? I am where I am, so I just need to move forward. I need to fall forward. Does that make sense? And we all need to hear that. Randy, you said you were 62?
Yep.
62 young. And I don't know that I've seen another 62-year-old guy that has the energy and the smile and the excitement and the enthusiasm about life that I've seen with Randy. I really mean that, sincerely. And, when you get around other people that have that kind of energy and when you listen to their stories, it pumps you up. So we'll be launching that as well in very, very short order. And, it's funny because I've had people tell me, back in the day when I was on the Book of the Month program, and it converted to CDs. So at least CDs are still in. Okay, I know MP3s are probably becoming more popular, but I'd had people say, well, I don't really need that hype. I'm going to tell you something. I don't know anybody who's immune to not needing some good hype. I mean, you go to a basketball game, a football game, you go to any kind of a sporting event, soccer, whatever. Your kids are out on the field, man. Are you not getting freaking pumped up or what? You don't need hype? We're created that way. If you want to call it hype, but we were created, we're emotional beings. The next one, always be positive and edify. What an amazing concept. I remember when I started learning how to be positive, because I really wasn't positive. I was actually negative. I never smiled because I was always working. Things never seemed to go right. Does anybody relate to this information? I was always behind schedule because in my cabinet business, my construction business, it was just a struggle all the time. I was always working, I was always making money, but I was always behind and I never got to do, even my own honeymoon, I had to take my honeymoon a week late because my clients made me stay and work. They actually threatened me. So, it seems like life sucks. But then you walk into a room and you see these people with smiles, right? And what does it do to you? It puts a smile on your own face, right? And lately I've been telling the story about when Lodi was doing their events in Lodi at the winery. I forget the name of the winery, but I had committed to somebody that would go to Lodi Winery and see the Successful Thinkers event. They've been going for months and months and months. I had never been there. So that night I got in my car. I drove all the way to Lodi. Actually, I drove Highway 5 to I think it was the Turner exit or whatever exit it was. And supposedly it wasn't too far off of that exit. Next thing I know, I'm at Highway 99. And then I found myself, I get going for another 6 miles past Highway 99. And then I finally got smart and I turned my GPS on. and I have to be honest with you, my Corvette, my Z06 has always had a GPS, but I have ADD and that one was hard for me to learn how to use, so I never used it. So I bought a GPS. Now that sounds pretty insane, but I actually had a GPS sitting on the floor. So I reached over and plugged it in and turned it on and put in the put in the address, and it was 8 miles back the other way. And at that point, I was like ready to go back home. I really was not in a good mood. I didn't really want to be there anyway. But because I live out of my calendar, and you want to know a true entrepreneur? They live out of their calendar. They don't make decisions based on their feelings. People who claim they want to be an entrepreneur, but live by their feelings, are not entrepreneurs. End of story. Because they'll never be successful. You can't be if you live based on your emotions. And so I was heading the 6 miles back to Highway 99, and I was thinking, I can just go home from here, I don't need to go to that stupid winery. And long story short, I hit Highway 99 and went over the freeway. Then I drove the extra 2 miles, turned left on the unlit road, and found the winery. And when I got in front of the winery, it was a beautiful winery, by the way, but it was empty. There was nobody there. So then I was really upset. And so then I saw the arrow. I drove back towards the back of the winery, and then I found there was a parking lot back there, and there were a bunch of cars. So I go, oh good, there's people here. I get out of the car, and I begin to look for life. There was no life anywhere. I opened these double doors that should have been where the meeting was, opened it up, there's all kinds of tables and chairs, bar, nobody was there. So I'm at a winery that's not happening, so I must be at the wrong one. But all those cars were there. So I thought, okay, I'll walk just a little bit further in, because they have an amazing courtyard. And I opened the double doors, and then there was life. But for me and my attitude, it was not very good. But the moment I opened the doors and I saw the faces, they had smiles, they were talking to each other, there was hugs going on. I felt like, okay, I'm glad I came. And by the time I got in my car to go home, I could have drove all the way to LA. In other words, that association was so impactful to me, I needed it. Does that make sense? So, the edification, I gotta go back to being positive. How do you be positive? When you walk in a room, you have two choices. You can walk in the room with a frown on your face and wait for somebody to make you smile. Because some of us do that, don't we? We know that we're going to get a smile when we go in, but we're not going to walk in there and help anybody. We're going to let them help us, right? Or you can walk in the room and you can be the one that has the smile. It's your choice. And every day you make that choice. And I'll tell you something, no matter what mood you're in, no matter what has not gone right, if you put a smile on your face, and they say it takes less muscles to do a smile anyway. So if you use less muscles, you're going to smile, right? But if you do that, you walk in a room, then you become that light. And you become that magnet to other people. And then when you meet somebody or you start to talk to somebody, if you know people, make sure you edify them. Appreciate them. And if you want to be edified, ladies and gentlemen, don't wait for someone to find something significant about you to edify you. Give them something. Do something with a purpose. Be visible. Be recognizable. But edify, in the process, edify other people. You edify other people, they're going to know who you are, and they're going to edify you back. It's a natural response. Does that make sense? Yes. And then this is the one that I added, because I grew up with 8 steps, but this one I had it put in here because it's part of Successful Thinkers Network. Always invite. Always invite. That means always tell somebody about Successful Thinkers Network, invite them to a mixer. Invite them to log in on Facebook, to invite them to the website. Because if you do that, you're giving them an opportunity, and you're giving them hope, and you're giving them a place to build their business. You're actually a blessing. Now you can be selfish and hold it in and just go, well, I'm just going to be the 80%er. I'm just going to go in and take advantage of Successful Thinkers Network. That's okay, we're building it for you. But what about the people that you know that would love to know what you know? Just because you've already done business with them or you can't do business with them doesn't mean you shouldn't bring them here. Am I making sense? There's a rule, a life rule. The life rule is 20% of people do 80% of the work. It's a fact. That means 20% of people make things happen so the other 80% can be blessed by their activity. And it's okay because the 20%ers are okay with it. We understand that. That's our nature and it's okay. So that takes me to the next one, which is be recognized. Some people think, well, I don't want to be recognized. You know, Elias tells me 24 times in a conversation, Joe, I don't care, I don't need to be recognized. But the truth of the matter is we need to be recognized. Because if we're in the 20% and we're the ones that are blessing other people, I mean, when Randy said that Greg's done 4 events for us, Greg, how many events have you done? Probably 50, 60, 70? The truth of the matter, Greg's everywhere. And he's always quiet. He doesn't, ask for anybody's attention. But Greg just likes to do what he does. And so Greg shows up, and you don't even have to ask him. If he knows it's there, he'll come. If he knows you want him, he generally will come if he's available. That's awesome. And that's powerful. But by recognizing others and you yourself being recognized, that means that when people say, who brought guests? You should want to run up to the front of the room. You should be up here where the speakers are. There's 2 reasons for it. One, you brought a guest. You get to be recognized, and you get to personally recognize your guest. That only happens here in Successful Thinkers. In fact, Successful Thinkers is the first in several categories. We're the first with one-on-ones, we're the first with fireside chats, which we haven't even rolled out, and we're the first starting a platform like this with a purpose, on purpose, for a purpose. We are the first in the nation and around the world. We are the first. So